All right, guys, we're live. We have a lot to talk about today, starting with March for Our Lives, which happened this weekend, the Stormy Daniels interview, which happened this weekend as well, along with a bunch of news coming to us this morning. We have news on George Nader.
Yes,
We have news on the FTC now probing Facebook.
which is interesting. I think it's something that was kind of expected. I think we kind of assumed the FTC was going to have to look into what's actually going on with Facebook and where the information they got came from and where it went.
Yeah, we have news on a fake meme going around with Emma Gonzalez on it.
Yeah, which is kind of disgusting, I'd have to say.
And some shares on Facebook by Iowa Congressman Stephen King attacking Emma Gonzalez, which is another disgusting tactic.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about March for Our Lives, which was a huge event that took place over this weekend on Saturday. I had the opportunity to attend a local event here in Fort Myers, and it was surprisingly very very crowded, and there's a lot of people there. So that was kind of exciting, I thought.
Let's start with let's start with the biggest news. I think is probably March for Our Lives. The event had upwards of 800,000 people in Washington D.C. alone, and then there is an estimated another probably several million around the country and around the globe.
Yeah. Like I said, I attended the Fort Myers event. It took place in downtown Fort Myers, and I think they were expecting a few hundred, and the estimates are over 1,000. I would have guessed it was closer to around 3,000 people who took part in the march. There's people as young as 4 there, up to, old grandparents there,
Yeah.
and it was nice to see everybody get together and march for a good cause. Of course, it paled in comparison to the Washington D.C. march, which had there's estimates that range between 200,000 and 1 million, depending on who you listen to, but it was definitely very crowded. I was very surprised to see the turnout there as well.
Yeah, and Fort Myers, if you don't know, is more of a red area. It's a lot of
it's a red district. Typically we go red this district, Florida District 19. It was nice to see the Democratic candidates for our district show up. 2 of them are running against each other in the primary, and that was good to hear them speak. It was just all around, I think it was a good event.
Yeah, and the one in D.C. was crazy. I hear there's the speeches given by that 11-year-old girl, by Emma Gonzalez, by so many of those affected by this. That they were awesome speeches, and I think it's going to be. I don't think this certainly is not the end for March for Our Lives. They're going to keep on protesting. They're going to keep on making their voices heard.
Well, and it's I think it got the voter registration numbers were up a ton on Saturday.
Yeah,
a lot of people registered to vote. A lot of teenagers registered to vote.
Yeah, there's an organization, Head Count, and they were there registering people to vote, and they said that this was in 10 years. This was the biggest event they ever had by far in terms of voter registrations that they obtained, and they said by far the biggest. So it was a success in that department for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a success in a lot of areas, and I think we'll see these kids like Emma Gonzalez and the other students from Parkland continue their protesting and continue to kind of rally everyone together, especially on social media, especially on Twitter. So I think it's great to see that. For those who are watching, my name's Ed Krasenstein. This is Brian Krasenstein. We typically run these shows on Periscope via Twitter, but we decided we're switching over to YouTube. So be sure to follow us. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you're watching. And we're going to be doing these a lot more often here on YouTube.
All right, so let's get to the other big story from this weekend, which was last night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Actually a little later because that basketball game went into overtime. But Stormy Daniels gave her interview to CNN's Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, and it wasn't anything too much unexpected, but it had a few tidbits of information that could be particularly dangerous to Trump.
Yeah, I think the fact that Trump kind of held them off from airing the episode allowed things to leak out, and we kind of got an idea of what was going to be talked about. There are no like major bombshells in the interview, but we did learn some quite disturbing things, such as the physical threats that Stormy Daniels received. She did specifically say it came from Trump or Michael Cohen, his attorney, but you can kind of infer that's who would have been threatening her. And Michael Cohen, of course, came out today and issued a cease and desist order against Stormy Daniels, telling her to apologize and retract her inference that he was behind the threats, which isn't going to get him anywhere.
Well, something I find kind of humorous is the fact that you have Trump's people, Michael Cohen, saying that threatening to sue her now, right? Threatening to sue her not because
not for defamation,
but for breaking the NDA. So those on the right who are saying Stormy Daniels is just a liar, she's a porn star, you can't believe her. It's actually, if that was the case, they wouldn't be suing her for breaking the NDA. They'd be suing her for slander.
Exactly. So it's kind of, I don't want to say an admission of guilt, but it kind of makes you think, why aren't they suing Stormy Daniels for defamation and slander when she's if she's lying about what actually happened, then Trump could sue for defamation of character, and they're not doing that. Instead they're going after the NDA, which was signed, but they claim that she's lying. But if she's lying and has nothing to hide, why would they want her to sign the NDA in the first place?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of Stormy's not lying. At least I don't feel she has any reason to.
Well, I think if she was lying, it would come out that she's lying. I think that they actually the president's lawyers would challenge it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bill Gerald said overall pretty disappointed in a 60 Minutes piece, and yeah, like I said, it wasn't anything. I was expecting something else. I was expecting maybe some more material. The one instance of the threat, that was definitely a big story, but the biggest story is probably the fact that Trump gave her this money, or Cohen gave her this money, and that was clearly a violation. Whether it was a violation in that Cohen basically donated to the Trump campaign $130,000, or that Trump paid it but went through Cohen. It was likely illegal.
Well, yeah, the campaign contributions by Michael Cohen are illegal one way or the other. So that's going to be something that's going to come up regardless of what actually happened sexually between Trump and Stormy. Regardless, there's going to be some key FEC investigations that probably take place to see if these payments were actually legal, which it doesn't appear to be. They don't appear to be legal. I don't see any way they could have been legal. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Andrew Ciccarone, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, says the most horrifying thing about Stormy's interview, picturing him getting spanked by a magazine with his picture on the cover, or his weird obsession with his daughter. And yeah, I agree. And it's really interesting, or I should say disturbing, that he always tends to tell these women that he's having affairs with that they remind him of his daughter. It's just a little strange to me. Maybe it's not to everyone else, but to me it seems a little odd, at least.
Yeah.
But then again, it is Donald Trump, and there's a lot of oddities there, I'd have to say.
All right, so the other big story that's breaking this morning was that the White House has expelled 60 Russian diplomats and closed the consulate in Seattle. That's a move I commend them for. It could have happened sooner, and they should still be implementing those sanctions that Congress gave him.
That's the thing. They've implemented sanctions. Trump's implemented sanctions, but sanctions against particular individuals. These aren't sanctions that are actually hurting the Russian government or hurting Russia, hurting the Kremlin. And this expelling of the diplomats, that doesn't really affect the Kremlin either. Just they might not get as much intel information, but they still have a ton of people here. They're going to retaliate and expel U.S. diplomats, I'm sure. So it doesn't really do much to hurt the Kremlin, in my opinion. I think what we need to see are sanctions against the Kremlin specifically, and against many of the oligarchs directly related to Putin, to kind of inhibit Russia and to inhibit Russia's economy. I think that's what we need to see.
Well, it's all about money for Putin and those associated with him. So any way we can hit them financially, it's going to have an effect on Putin.
And Trump refuses to do that. He refuses to publicly condemn Putin or the Kremlin. So until we see that happening, I think we're still going to see people saying that Trump's a Russian. He's working with Russia.
Yeah.
In some form or another. Anything else to add on the sanctions?
No. We could probably move back to March for Our Lives and talk a little bit about Emma Gonzalez and kind of the attacks that she's receiving right now. There's two different ways she's receiving attacks, and that's the first one is the far right has put out a meme or just a photo and a video, like a GIF of her tearing up the Constitution. Now this was actually taken from a photo where she was tearing up a target, like a gun range target, and somebody photoshopped U.S. Constitution on top of it, and then shared it. Tens of thousands of times this has been shared, and people actually thought it was real.
It's like, why would she be tearing up the U.S. Constitution? That's what aggravates me so much, is that everybody who's against the March for Our Lives, attacking the people who took part in the March for Our Lives, are saying they're anti-Second Amendment, anti-Constitution. That could not be farther from the truth. No, I didn't see one person at the marches saying ban all guns.
No.
I didn't see one person saying cancel the Second Amendment. Nobody's doing that. That's not happening. It's just we want common sense gun laws.
The most extreme thing that they're saying they want done is an assault weapons ban, which we had an assault weapons ban in 1994 to 2004.
And the Supreme Court already has ruled that a ban on assault weapons is not unconstitutional. It's all in line with the Second Amendment and in line with the Constitution. So to say that this is an attack on the Constitution or an attack on the Second Amendment it's just not true. And it's just those on the far right. You see the Russian troll forums on Twitter have been using this, saying that these kids, those who marched in the march, are attacking the U.S. Constitution. It's just not true.
Yeah. So then, additionally, in addition to that meme or whatever you want to call it, Iowa Republican representative for Iowa, Steve King, made an interesting tweet. Or not tweet, a Facebook post. He's not too active on Twitter. He's more active on Facebook. I can quickly read you what he posted. He posted a picture of Emma Gonzalez, and then with the words reading, "This is how you look when you claim Cuban heritage, yet don't speak Spanish and ignore the fact that your ancestors fled the island when a dictatorship turned Cuba into a prison camp after removing all weapons from the citizens, hence their right to self-defense." And it's a picture of Emma during March for Our Lives, during her speech where she sat silent for 6 minutes or so, with her eyes shut and tears running down her face. And it's a picture of her in that situation. And he's attacking her because she has a Cuban flag, because she's a Cuban American on her sleeve. And he's attacking her for I guess supporting Cuba.
Yeah.
Who took people's guns and then...
So now apparently you're not allowed to support your home country if you don't agree with their government. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's like you can support where you're from.
Well, and some of those taking Steve King's side are saying, well, why did she have an American flag on her shirt? Okay, now what if she was German or Polish and she had a little Polish flag on her shirt? Would you be criticizing her then? I highly doubt it.
It's just ridiculous. It's just like one of those things you try and discredit the marchers, but they know that the marchers are going to hurt their chances of getting reelected.
And then Steve King posted in that thread on Facebook that he guarantees he's going to be reelected. Let's maybe make sure he's not reelected.
Yeah. And I see a commenter here mentioned how about Rick Santorum's comment. And for those of you who haven't seen Rick Santorum's comment, he actually made a comment about CPR, about the marchers, instead of protesting, they should be learning CPR so they can save the lives, basically inferring so they can save the lives of those who are shot. And to me, that's the most stupid comment anyone can ever make. Because when you're shot with an AR-15 and your blood's just leaking out all over the floor, CPR is not going to do anything.
CPR doesn't do anything when all of your blood's sitting on the floor and not in your body.
It's just a very ignorant comment, and I can't believe CNN still has him on the show. But I mean, it was trending on Twitter. Rick Santorum was trending on Twitter for a few hours, and Twitter basically ate him alive for his comment.
He'll never have a political career.
Okay, he's already done. Yeah. He's not. But yeah, so that was very ignorant in my opinion. Also at March for Our Lives, Jared Kushner's brother actually took part.
Yeah, Josh Kushner, Jared's younger brother, was there, and he said he was going to take part, and he didn't let us down. He was there.
So I wonder how that relationship is between Jared Kushner.
Well, you kind of get the feeling that Jared's probably not a conservative.
No, he's not. He's been a Democrat. And
yeah, so I mean, it's not that surprising. I mean, maybe he could have supported his brother more and not shown up, but good for him.
Yeah, so that was another interesting thing that happened at March for Our Lives. I saw Joe Biden showed up at the Delaware rally and gave a speech. There are a lot of tweets by other political figures such as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. So there we have that. Another story. Should we move on from March for Our Lives? Another story is George Nader. He was actually at some of the Trump meetings. Was he in the Seychelles meeting?
I believe he was in the Seychelles meeting, and he knew of it.
Basically, it came out, I believe it was last night, that he took a lot of cash from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and he funneled this cash to a Trump fundraiser, Elliott Broidy, $2.5 million worth. And this also enabled him to basically have meetings with Trump and speak to Trump and sort of influence some policy. So that's something we're going to watch because
clearly Mueller is looking at that.
Yeah, Nader is actually cooperating with Robert Mueller in his investigation.
Yeah, there are some reports that he actually fled the country.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But his attorney said he's just going back and forth, so maybe he's gonna stay over there, maybe not. But it appears that right now he's still going to be cooperating.
And I see Russ Bates okay in the chat box says Kushner's not a Democrat. No, he's not a Democrat anymore. But if you look at his views in the past, he's been very liberal in his views. And when Trump took him on, many people actually questioned why he was bringing him on, being that he was very liberal. I don't know what he's registered as. He's probably registered as a Republican now, being that he works for a Republican president.
Yeah.
So, again, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can leave them here in the chat box if you're on YouTube. Also, follow us on YouTube so you get notified when we have these live streams. And you can also tweet at us with hashtag KrasensteinLive right up there, and we'll answer your questions and get to your comments. Let's see here. Sasha Hardquarter says Cambridge Analytica said they filmed giving bribes to politicians to blackmail them. GOP Speaker Ryan have been suspiciously silent throughout the Trump presidency. Do you think Cambridge Analytica or perhaps Russia has something on them or are blackmailing them? I think it's a real possibility. I don't, it's impossible for us to say, but it does seem, a lot of this seems a little fishy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would not be one bit surprised if some of those people in the GOP, namely Devin Nunes, Matt Gaetz, so those types of people who are supporting Trump without question, if something's up there. I mean, I'm not going to go out and say that somebody's bribing them.
Well, there comes a point where you support Trump because he's a Republican president. You're also a Republican looking for Republican votes. But there also comes a point where you kind of cross over that line and you start going head over heels in defense of the president when that's not going to get you more votes. It's probably going to lose you votes. So why do we see these guys like Devin Nunes in a district that's not all that much in favor of the Republicans? Why is he going so hard in favor of Trump? My guess is that Trump doesn't have an approval rating above 50% in his district.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I don't see how it's beneficial.
It doesn't make sense.
Unless, again, there's something that
he doesn't want leaked.
Well, either Nunes, maybe he's being blackmailed like this commenter says, or perhaps maybe he is also tied up in the investigation or knows that he is going to be tied up in this Mueller investigation and he wants to stop it as well.
We got a little breaking story here. BuzzFeed's just reporting this right now. it's in regards to one of the attorneys representing investors when Trump's casinos went bankrupt several years ago. I'll just read you the headline. It says, if you keep effing with Mr. Trump, we know where you live. That's the title. And then Trump's casino business went bankrupt, and then a lawyer representing investors told police he got a menacing call from a man who said, "We're going to your house for your wife and kids. Stop effing with Trump." The FBI determined that the call came from a phone booth across the street from the theater where Trump was appearing on The Late Show with David Letterman.
Wow, that's very interesting. So it appears as though Trump uses these threats not just once, but he uses them over and over again. He probably has used them over and over again for years. I mean, if you believe these allegations,
it's scary to think that that's who's leading our country right now. It's scary to know that basically a mob boss.
Yeah, it's like these are mobster tactics. These are tactics you saw by Al Capone, and it's like this isn't how the U.S. president should be running the country. Somebody shouldn't be running the country who has mob-like motives and mob-like ways of doing things. And I bet my guess is that we start hearing a lot more of these threats coming out.
Yeah, and it kind of goes along with Stormy Daniels' threatening kind of her family, saying it would be ashamed if that little girl of yours, if something would happen to her mother. And
this also goes back to, do you remember a while ago there were allegations that Trump was involved in some sexual misdoings and he threatened some of his victims?
Yeah,
it kind of gives more credence to that now, which is scary as well. So
so that BuzzFeed story, if you haven't read it, head on over to BuzzFeed. It seems like it might be quite a bombshell. I doubt anything will ever come of it, just because it's happened so long ago, and the burden of proof on something like that would be quite high.
Yeah, it's going to be impossible to figure out who this guy was making the threats. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But once again, it shows Trump's character, or should I say, lack of character.
Yeah,
and it's kind of scary. So I guess we'll have to find out. There's rumors that Trump might fire more people this week. The head of the Veteran Affairs, perhaps Ben Carson. There's a lot of rumors swirling around.
There's still John Kelly. Steve Bannon actually said that if John Kelly was to be fired, Trump probably wouldn't even fill that position. He'd just operate without a chief of staff, which for those of you who don't know what John Kelly's job is, it's basically to coordinate everybody who wants to access the president. Yeah. So if somebody wants to talk to the president, he's pretty much a scheduling guy. Could you imagine Trump running around trying to make his own schedule?
Oh, man.
I mean, he doesn't start work till 11 o'clock a.m., supposedly.
Yeah, well, the sources in the White House are all saying that the White House is a complete mess with so unorganized. Could you imagine John Kelly, who's like the most organized person on the team, was to be fired, or if he was to resign, how crazy things would get. So that's something you keep an eye on. John Bolton, the new NSA director, that's scary too, I think.
That's probably one of the scariest appointments, if not the scariest appointment yet. I can't even think of anybody that would be.
Well, what worries me is that as Mueller gets closer to Trump, as perhaps he indicts individuals closer to Trump, like Donald Trump Jr. or Jared Kushner, Trump could start some wars.
Yeah, is he going to try to kind of make people forget what's happening at home by doing something overseas? And you want to think that he's not that stupid, but it's hard to think he's not that stupid.
Well, that's why this whole John Bolton thing's so scary, because for those who don't know, John Bolton is very, 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 very pro-war, and he's, if you wanted to start wars all around the world, he'd be the guy you want.
Well, it's going to be interesting, because it's going to be between him and General Mattis. So he might want to start a war, but Mattis is going to be pushing back on the other end, hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
although Mattis is known to be pretty hawkish too, but I think
Mattis has a brain, and he knows when Mattis isn't going to go after people just for the sake of going after people. Where I can see John Bolton and Trump going after people just for the sake of going after people to create distractions, for Trump and just to create war because Bolton loves war so much, it seems.
Yeah. Lady Slim just asked, do you think Fox News or some pundits will be part of the Russia scandal? And we were asked this before. It's really impossible to tell. It wouldn't surprise me if they were, but it's kind of a reach. The media, they're reporting on news. It's kind of a reach to think that they're going to go down in this, but who knows? I mean, somebody like Hannity, if he's coordinating with the president to put out false news knowing it's false, then that's one thing. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think Fox News has. I don't think the commentators have direct ties to Russia. Could Russia be influencing him through other means? That's something that's possible. They could be influencing him through troll farms who are pushing these stories on Twitter, and the people like Sean Hannity jumps at every conspiracy that they see, and then starts reporting on it. So yes, Hannity could be using Russian-made stories to report to his viewers, but I don't personally think that Hannity and Russia is in any kind of secret communication. That would surprise me. Whether Mueller could get these guys for anything is another thing, though. If Hannity and Trump are working together to perhaps obstruct justice, there are charges that can be brought conspiracy to obstruct justice. So that could be something interesting to watch. Who knows?
Sam asks, can we ask questions here or only through Twitter? You can do it either way. The Twitter ones we'll definitely see. The ones here, if it goes too fast, we might not see.
And for those of you watching us from Twitter, be sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube because you kind of get a notification that way when we go live. If you're watching it in your Twitter stream, you can click on the video and it'll take you to the YouTube channel where you can actually chat with us directly. So it's up to you guys how you want to do this.
Yeah, somebody also asked about HR 5087, and that's the assault weapons ban. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking about it. I think that the assault weapons ban in 1994 that extended 10 years to 2004, I think that was a good idea, and I wouldn't mind revisiting that or seeing something like that passed again. But there's a few issues with HR 5087, and that was the fact that there are so many loopholes, and it made for confusion. Also, the fact that it was only 10 years, you didn't get to see all the benefits of the law. You're getting these weapons off the streets, but after 10 years, they just reappear. You need more time.
Well, if the NRA wasn't involved and the GOP and the Democrats were willing to work together, they could come up with a solid solution, I feel. And that's just something that's not happening.
Yeah, and another thing with this assault weapons ban in 1994 was the fact that ammunition really wasn't included on that, and I think that maybe right now actually Senator Blumenthal has put forth a bill today actually to make it illegal to sell ammunition without a background check, and I can't see any argument against.
That's a common sense gun law. Also, a common sense gun law to me is raising the age from 19 to 21 in order to buy an assault rifle. There's no reason you should be able to buy a handgun. You shouldn't be able to buy a handgun until you're 21, but you're allowed to buy an AR-15. There's no reason for that, and that's just another common sense gun law. And that's what March for Our Lives was about, people wanting common sense gun laws. Nobody was chanting, get rid of the Second Amendment, or tear up the Constitution. That wasn't happening. I'm sure there are a few people that believe that, but the majority of people don't want to tear up the Second Amendment. We're not asking for that. I want to keep the Second Amendment because it's part of the U.S. Constitution. Go ahead.
I realize HR 5087 is a new bill. It's building off of the assault weapons ban in 1994. I think it's great. I would vote for it if I was in Congress, but I think there's no way the Republicans are going to vote for it. You're not going to get an assault weapons ban until Democrats take over the House and the Senate. That's just my opinion. But
yeah, so then here's another point why you should get out and vote. And I actually made a tweet this morning with a link to register to allow you to register to vote. if you haven't seen it, you can view my Twitter account, and I have a post there where there's a link directly to the vote.org website where you can register in a matter of like 2 minutes. So if you're one of those people who are like, okay, I'm going to vote this year, don't wait until it's too long to register, because there will be a time that comes that will be too late to register. So make sure you get out and register to vote just so you're ready when the midterms roll around in November.
Yeah, I agree. Do we have any questions on Twitter?
I don't believe there's anything on Twitter.
All right, so we got one comment from Brant Edmonds. Why are you both so whiny? I don't know. I guess that's just how our voice boxes are formed. I'm sorry you don't like my voice. You don't have to watch this if you don't want.
There's another question here on Twitter from Jamie Griles. She says, how was George Nader still walking free after a possession of child pornography conviction in '85? He apparently had magazines and movies featuring sex with underage boys. How does he still hold a position of influence? Well, I think there were actually 2 incidents where he was arrested for child pornography. I'm not sure of the one, but I know the one incident was that some of his rights were violated when the search warrant was issued, I believe. So he got off because of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Other one was, I think it was in another country it took place, and I think he did serve some time, and now he's out. You can fact check that though, because I'm not 100% sure. It is interesting he was working with Trump. You would wonder why Trump would bring somebody on like that to work for him, but then again, we've seen a lot worse from Trump over the past year and a half.
Yeah, and we are from New Jersey. Somebody said that's a New Jersey accent. We're originally from New Jersey. We live in Florida right now. We've lived here for about 12 years.
Yeah, and it's a lot different down here. You see a lot more Republicans, at least on this. We're on the West Coast. If you go on the East Coast toward Miami and stuff, it's more blue over there. But it's interesting.
We got another question from Sam's Tennis. One concern I have about the new national security advisor is if Trump is preparing to start a war to distract us from Mueller's conclusion. And like we talked about before, if Trump wants to start a war, he has the right national security advisor in place with John Bolton. And you can only hope that General Mattis would push back at anything he might be looking to.
I think a lot of people are hoping that, and I don't think you'll see Mattis go anywhere unless he's forced out, because he's kind of protecting his duty to him. I think is to protect the country against Trump in case Trump were to do anything crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Sam also says, what will happen to the Mueller investigation if he starts war and drafts us all? Well, he can only draft certain people under the age of, I think it's 25, maybe.
I don't see a reason for a draft. I don't think Congress would support a draft.
Yeah, you got to realize that Congress needs to vote on things too. Trump doesn't have all the power in the world.
I know he would like to have all the power.
We can't attack anybody unless they attack us first, unless Congress approves of it. So you can't really. So more than likely, we're somewhat safe.
And I guess there's a debate over what an attack consists of.
Yeah.
I'm sure Trump could try some things to get around around the laws, and get around Congress. But I don't foresee anything too major happening without Congress's approval. And a draft, I don't see Congress approving a draft. We don't need the manpower we did in, say, Vietnam.
Exactly.
And it's like
most wars are fought in the air or with drones. We did have the Iraq War, and we had soldiers on the ground, but that was nowhere near the number of people we would need for a draft.
Yeah, and the technology's improved even since then, where we don't need as much manpower as well. So with everybody who's in the Marines and the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, I think we have more than enough people to go to war anywhere in the world. I think even if a world war was to break out, I don't think a draft would be required.
And Brant, who complained about our voices, is now asking about a tweet I made earlier in the day about AR-15s and how they won't protect us from the government if they start using weapons like M1 Abrams tanks or tactical nuclear weapons. Basically, the point of that tweet was fighting back against those who are in support of assault weapons, who say we need our assault weapons in case the government ever comes in and tries attacking its own people. And my argument was, yeah, but your AR-15 is not going to stand up to an M1 Abrams tank or an F-16 or these automatic weapons with highly trained military officials.
If the government wanted to do anything to you, they could. You're not going to be able to stop them. So, no, your AR-15 is not going to be able to protect you any more than a handgun or a shotgun is going to be able to protect you if the government is coming in.
The Second Amendment, one of the biggest arguments in support of the Second Amendment is that it keeps the government in check, and so that they don't force its own people into tyranny or whatever. But if they want to do that, they're going to do that. And there's a reason we don't have M1 Abrams tanks and we don't have automatic weapons, and that's because they're too dangerous for Americans, and they can cause mass casualties.
Some states still legally allow machine guns, and to me that's just crazy. But the Supreme Courts have ruled, like I said before, that the government can ban certain weapons, like assault weapons, and the government has done this, and the Supreme Court upheld that decision. So your argument, Brant, holds no grounds because the Supreme Court makes those decisions, not you.
Yeah, Andre said a single drone strike would wipe out a militia camp like me stepping on an ant, and that's exactly right. Whether you have an AR-15 or you don't have an AR-15, if the government wants you dead, they're gonna kill you. Your AR-15 is not gonna prevent it. And I'm not saying that this is gonna happen by any means.
No, it's not gonna happen. It's not. Don't even get that in your head that that's going to happen, because that's why we have a vote. We can put in the people we want in office, and the American people can see. They can look at these people and decide who we want in office. And it takes a lot. The president can't just start killing Americans. Okay,
well, and like Bermuse said, that's an old fallacy. It might have been true in the 18th century, but not today. And that's absolutely right. Back in 1790 or whatever, that's when the Second Amendment was written. If the U.S. military wanted to come in and force Americans into an internment camp or do whatever they wanted, they had the same weapons that we had, muskets.
Yeah. So
we could fight back. We could create a militia and fight back. But now the government has weapons that we don't have. We could never imagine having. So it's just a moot argument.
All right, let's take a few comments on Twitter.
And Brant replied exactly, it's not going to happen, meaning you create a scenario that won't happen. I'm not creating a scenario. I'm just arguing one of the main arguments in support of the Second Amendment that I hear so often is that. And I was just saying that argument's moot.
Yes. Worthy Bladder says, any idea why Hannity is such a prick? Ratings.
He makes a lot of money.
He has a website. He sells books. He's on Fox News. He gets paid a ton of money by them. It's all about ratings for him. I think it's about making money, and I think that's why he pushes these conspiracy theories, because people watch. And when you push these conspiracy theories that are completely out there, people get interested. I mean, I watch Sean Hannity sometimes just to see how stupid he is, and he's making money off my view. So it's about money. I think money and power. I think he likes having the power, having the viewership he does, having the attention of the president. I think he likes that. Here's another question on Twitter from Lori. She says, if it weren't for the fact that we'd be funding terrorism, do you think it would be worth us joining the NRA so we can vote on their policies? Or can we just start our own NRA-type organization and put them out of business? Also, why haven't we sued them yet? And that's really a really excellent point. And I've heard it mentioned before. Why doesn't everybody just join the NRA and then we have voting rights to influence them? But I think the better idea would be to support other super PACs and other PACs which support your ideas and your opinions, because you know that your money is going to those PACs and not going to pay the salaries of these people working for the NRA.
Yeah, I agree with that. Bemuse just asked, do you think Mueller will be digging into Cambridge Analytica? Will it lead to a broader investigation into other political figures who may be using questionable tactics? Would scope even allow that? And yes, I do think Mueller has been digging into Cambridge Analytica. We know that he's known about it since around November or December of last year, so that's 3 to 5 months he's known about this. Now, will it lead to a broader investigation to other political figures? If he digs into this and he sees other political figures who are involved in unethical means of raising money or not rigging elections, but influencing elections, then absolutely he will go that way. And the scope isn't defined. The scope is basically whatever crimes he finds along the way. And if the scope leads him down that route, so be it. And just like Clinton, he was investigated for a real estate deal and he got impeached for lying about an affair.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ifs, and we don't know what Mueller has. We don't see the evidence book he has. So it's impossible to answer these questions, and it's also impossible to say there's no proof of collusion because we don't see what Mueller has. So it's just ridiculous to even say that.
Yeah.
So right now, Raj Shah is giving a press conference at the White House, and he's been asked about Stormy Daniels and what the White House's take is, and he's basically said the White House has not done anything illegal. You'd have to direct questions to President Trump directly. But of course, you can't ask Trump questions directly because he doesn't hold news conferences.
And they're saying that Stormy Daniels has been inconsistent. And yes, she has been inconsistent because she took the money and said nothing happened, but then she came forward. So,
but there's reasons for those.
There's reasons. She has her reasons. Anders said, "What would happen if Mueller was assassinated or died from natural reasons?" And that's a good question.
Well, the investigation. He's in charge of the investigation. He's not the one only looking at evidence. He's not the only one that has the evidence. There's others working under him, and Rod Rosenstein is his superior. So
he would appoint somebody.
If something was to unfortunately happen to Mueller, Rosenstein would appoint somebody to take over the investigation. I'm guessing it would be somebody within the investigation now, and they just continue running it as if nothing ever happened.
Sam said, "Do you think the Democratic Party is lacking a leader to lead the resistance? I personally feel it's all just citizens right now." I don't know. I mean, I don't agree with everything Chuck Schumer says and does. Nancy Pelosi either. But I do think they have the best interests of us at heart. I also think that should Democrats win the House or the Senate in 2018, the leadership could change.
Yeah, I think that's
we need younger.
I don't think we're going to see a real leader emerge until like 2019 when things get closer to the election.
Yeah, but I think we need someone at the top who's younger. I think Kennedy's good. I think Swalwell's good. There's plenty of people. Gillibrand's good.
Yeah. What's his face? New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. I like him a lot.
There's so many younger people within the party who I think should be leading things because it just feels that they're more adept to what's happening and how the constituents feel.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, Brian. All right, well, I guess we can wrap things up. Remember to subscribe to our channel. You can see that link if you're in YouTube. You can see that link down there on the bottom. Also, you can follow us on Twitter if you don't already. And stay tuned. We'll be doing more of these shows in the coming weeks.
Yeah, Ed and I are actually traveling overseas
next week. So we'll be back after that.
All right. See you guys later.